Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. Of course, it is the 7th Plymouth edition with none other than our state representative, Geoff Diehl. Welcome back to CrossTalk.
Thanks.
I want to first and foremost make sure that I say to folks that we've started a tradition here, I feel, from both communities that we serve, that our legislators come in and talk, and Geoff was the first one who started, and Josh Cutler, who represents the 6th Plymouth District, both of them come in on a regular basis, and a lot of people tell me how happy they are, how pleased they are that they get to see both of their legislators. So I want to make sure that I relayed that to you and let you know that people are watching, and they like seeing the transparency, at least hearing from the legislators who are doing work for them, whether it's up on Beacon Hill or down in their district. So.
Well, look, trust is a big part of what you need to build to do your job effectively. Up on Beacon Hill, yep. Listening to your fellow legislators and getting a trust between them, and at the local level, even more important, the people who elect you, you need to relay back to them what is happening, and you need to hear from them. And you know, it's nice, it's spring, it's going to be time to get back out with concerts and events, and I look forward to talking to everybody again, just as much as I've tried every year to make sure that we have that open dialogue. And you providing this forum on TV for folks maybe who don't see out there all the time, it's great. So thanks for having me do this.
How important is it doing those? I see you every year at the concerts, you and the missus, out there shaking hands, talking to people, whether you have lollipops or some kind of another thing to kind of just greet people. How important is that to you to be able to have one-on-one conversations with folks?
I do forums at the high school. I go to different events that are in the district, and yep. A lot of times people, they feel nervous to talk to you with a microphone and try to address you. So sometimes it's great when you just have that chance to one-on-one. They don't have to feel like they're asking a dumb question, because there are no dumb questions, and they can ask you something about, is this state, is this federal, and I can kind of point them in the right direction. I can tell them what I've been working on related to what they talk about. So it's great to have that one-on-one, and I always, so long as I ever serve, if I ever get out of touch with people, shame on me. This is exactly what I'm here for.
Talking about things that you work on, I think one of the key legislation that is going to be soon signed into law by our governor, that is this opioid bill that has been worked on not only by the House and the Senate, but now
through conference committee.
Through conference committee, right? You had both sides, because each side had worked out their own versions of the bill. Give me the nuts and bolts and the importance of this particular bill that is going to be signed into law.
All right, so I don't think I need to explain, because a lot of people are very aware now that drugs in our community are a problem. It's finally being addressed, I think, by a lot of folks who were afraid to talk about it before. But 4 people in Massachusetts die every day from an opiate overdose, okay? 4 people. And we can take steps. We have taken steps in the past. We're going to continue to take steps in the future. But the opioid bill that passed or is about to be signed by the governor has been something that he's been talking about since he was running for office. And it's something that I know as a legislator myself, we've been trying to fix for a long time. Community support groups, drop-in centers in East Bridgewater, for example. EB Hope has one every first and third Thursday of each month. They are there with professionals, in support with the local police to support this. And by the way, not arrest people. They want to help them get help, not create a criminal record for them. They're trying to get them off drugs and in recovery. So it's an effort in the communities to do a better job. In fact, the police chief of Gloucester was the one to kind of start this whole, we're not going to treat you like a criminal, we're going to treat you like a community member that we need to help. So that's good, but there are some laws that had to pass. And some of the things that we did recently was the Narcan, not in this bill, was to create or make Narcan more available. Lower cost, stop the gouging by the manufacturer, price gouging, and get it into each community so that they could have recovery. The other thing was fentanyl. We had to criminalize it. And
dangerous.
Fentanyl is what has been cut into heroin that makes it deadly for the people who use it. So we criminalized it, increased penalties on it. I wish we'd gone a little further as far as the dealers of fentanyl. I wish we had made them basically have a longer sentence, but that didn't pass. But we did criminalize and give harsh penalties for it. Now we've had the chance to weigh in on the opioid bill. And for what I brought some notes because I don't normally do this. It's very important for people to know what's in it and what's not in it. So one of the things that's really important is that hospitals, emergency rooms, where somebody's brought in and they've had an overdose, all right, hospitals can hold on to them for up to 24 hours to observe them, to make sure that they're okay. It used to be that as soon as they sort of were off the table, they woke up, they could sign themselves out immediately. And what they're saying is people don't realize they become a danger to themselves because they still may be under the influence of the opiate. The Narcan is a multiplier effect, and if they go back out and do heroin again, it pretty much is a triple effect on their body, can kill them, and that's a problem. So I actually was supporting the governor's version where we were going to have a 3-day hold on the patient, because we also wanted to have families, friends, anybody kind of be able to come in, intervene with them, and maybe get them off to a program that they need to. Now the person can still leave after 24 hours, but at least there's 24 hours for the hospital to tell them what their options are, let them kind of clear their head, get back to a regular sense, and maybe talk to the doctors about what options maybe are there for stopping, using heroin. So that's one thing that's important in that bill. By the way, the discussion too has been that even though it was reduced down to a day, these things always can change. If they find that that's not working, we can always go back and revisit that time frame. The other thing that's important too, and this is a lot of confusion out there with seniors who have prescriptions. They think that now what this bill will do is stop them from getting long-term pain prescriptions. That's not true. Chronic pain is going to be treated differently. People who need opiates for long-term chronic pain, they will still get those prescriptions for that longer term. But what we are doing is imposing a 7-day limit for adult patients who are prescribed an opiate for the first time.
Initial time, yep.
So if you have a surgery, you need pain medication, the first time you're going to get a 7-day supply. And by the way, that doesn't mean you can't get a new prescription filled 7 days later. It just means we're going to limit it. So instead of getting pills for 30 days and you end up only using them for 2 or 3 days, and now you've got a ton of pills sitting in your cabinet that a kid, somebody can come in and steal. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. We want to get those opiates out of the public as soon as possible. Just let them use it. And by the way, the other thing related to that is that for minors who have surgery, opiate prescriptions will be a 7-day supply only at first, okay? And again, they'd have to go back to their doctor now to get a new prescription. So there are some stopgaps in there to make sure that we aren't just throwing a million pills at people and then they're abusing it. By the way, the other thing too is we give patients the option of requesting a partial fill. So they can go to their pharmacist and say, I don't want the 30 days or I don't want the 7 days, I just need 3 days or something like that. That's in this bill as well. So for first time and then refills, which can be longer. They can say, I only want a partial on the refill.
Okay.
All right, I know it's a lot of details here, but this is important.
But this is very important, and I think, again, this is so people it'll clarify things and people will understand, because they may hear certain things that are reported in the news or certain things that are reported in the paper. Doesn't mean that everything is translated correctly.
Exactly. And then the final thing, I mean, there's more in it, but the final thing I think people should know is that pharmaceutical companies operating in Massachusetts are now going to be mandated to participate in drug stewardship programs, which is basically collecting and safely disposing of unwanted drugs.
Ooh.
So lately it's been, in the last few years, we've had great drug take-back days that are sponsored by and done by your local...
I think the Plymouth County, isn't it the Plymouth County DA or the Sheriff's Department? I think the DA, in conjunction with a lot of police departments, has been doing this where there's like a box and they go and they destroy it. This is great.
Yeah, so what happens is your local police station will put on a collection day, people will come in, they'll drop it off, and then it goes into a secured container and then it's disposed of. Right. In this case now, pharmaceutical companies will be responsible for the cost of that program and making sure it's implemented and done. So taking a little bit of the financial burden off of your local towns and the county for all this drug take back. It's about time, and I think the pharmaceutical companies are overdue in doing something this proactive. So we're making it a part of the law.
Anything else that we want to touch upon in regards to that bill?
Well, like I said, this is going to go into effect very shortly when the governor signs it, and we're going to learn from if some things do work and don't work, and we're going to continue to modify how we deal with the opiate crisis. And this bill is by far not the end of what we have to do up in the legislature.
Another conversation, another bill that's been discussed, and that is in regards to ride sharing. You have companies that, we're not talking about your local cab company, we're talking about where you use an app service that you could use something like an Uber or a Lyft. And this was a bill I think that has this been voted on and passed?
So the House has taken its vote on regulating Uber and Lyft. Right. And I actually was a no vote on this bill because of a few reasons. So if people don't know, Normally in cities you can find a lot of taxis. You can just hop in a cab and maybe go somewhere. In the suburbs where cabs aren't necessarily as easily to be found. And by the way, up in cities, cabs don't necessarily show up right at your doorstep. So Uber and Lyft provide a really neat, unique service where you can use the app to kind of request a vehicle to come, all right? The information about the driver, the car, the license plate number, all are given to you as soon as you send the request, and you can actually watch them come to your house on a map as they track to your house. Wow. So it's a really innovative, new technology. You don't even need cash. Your app actually pays for the ride once you're done. It's a really neat new thing, and it's innovated the whole industry of transportation and cabs, right? And it's statewide. I mean, statewide and national. It's gone. It's national, right? So some of the issues that there was concern about is, well, you've got these taxi cabs with these medallions that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and how is it fair that these Uber drivers and riders, can be doing this, sort of undercutting an entire industry? And my whole point was that voting no against this bill to regulate them was we shouldn't be penalizing companies that learn how to innovate and really create market efficiencies that do a better job of service for the customer. We had that tech tax that the legislature enacted that was going to drive technology out of our state. This is the same thing. We don't want to lose two different companies that are providing a market change that benefits the customer. And here's another way to look at it. Email, right? Email came in and basically undercut the U.S. Postal Service's
They're still around.
money that they were making on mail going out, right?
Snail mail.
Yeah, well, email came in and has made us be able to provide communication faster, obviously less cost, and that's the kind of thing that Uber and Lyft were doing, is providing a service at a lower cost, and it's a market innovation. Same thing as Amazon, allowing you to buy stuff online instead of having to drive all the time to get stuff. So, and Peapod with your groceries. It's just sort of the way technology is making our lives a little bit easier.
We're evolving.
Yeah, we are evolving. And what the legislature sort of did was decide to throw on sort of traditional legislation on an industry that isn't traditional. And I think what I wanted to see was maybe deregulating the livery services and the cabs, deregulate them so that they're on the even playing field. They feel like they're not on an even playing field. Well, taxi companies can certainly set up these Uber, Lyft type programs for apps. They certainly can, sure. And maybe they should. But at the same time, why hold back, two promising new companies that look to help make things, better for us as consumers?
All right, something to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Kind of staying in the transportation mode, a lot of people know you as a champion when it came to the gas tax, repealing the gas tax. And you kind of you mentioned it about what all started as a Trojan horse, as a transportation bill, that out came all these other taxes from it.
Cigarette tax, technology tax, unrelated to transportation.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Now, from what I understand is that there's a local options tax. What is that?
So, what's funny about Beacon Hill is if they don't get you the first time, they'll keep drip, 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 trying to get you the next time.
Repackage it, huh?
Exactly.
Okay.
So. What's going on right now is there's a bill to make it a local option for a town or city to do an indexed gas tax or apply a gas tax. So what I worked on last year in the ballot question was to stop the gas tax going up automatically every year without a vote. It's not right, first of all, because your legislators are no longer on the hook for raising a tax. It would just be indefinitely go up automatically, right? The second thing is I proved that Massachusetts wastes 4 times the amount of money on road maintenance that other states are able to do, including New Hampshire, and they just weren't being accountable with the dollars that they were being given. So those two things combined to help us win that ballot question. Now, these groups that want that extra money are saying, okay, we'll let the towns now enact that tax, and that will bring some revenue. And what they'll end up doing is cutting state aid, in Chapter 90 theoretically, for our road funds. So this is very similar to what they did with the meals tax, okay? They, there's already a sales tax on your meal, but then what they said was you can have a local option. Your
Right.
town can
0.75%.
can add on that tax for your meals tax, right? And then you keep that revenue and you're all set. And that way we kind of, if we cut your local aid money, well, at least you're making it up on that meals tax. Well, now they're going to do the same thing theoretically with your gas tax. They're going to make it so the towns can enact it. And I think that's the wrong way to go. We have to do a better job of reforming how Department of Transportation is spending its money before we ask taxpayers to do this. And they're arguing, well, now with gas so low, of course the money's there. You know what? This is the first time in a long time that taxpayers have gotten a break with their gas, right? Right now, the average household is saving anywhere from $700 to $1,100 a year on lower gas costs. This is not a time to say, hey, because you're saving it there, we're going to take it again as a legislature. You know, it's wrong. These people just don't have, they have a tin ear, it seems like, when it comes to what the people want. So, of course, I'll be working on that to defeat that as well.
It's funny you mentioned about the gas because just a couple of days ago, we went from, especially here in Whitman, we have 2 service stations that have been around $1.55, and for no reason at all. I don't know if it was just a surge in the market, the oil prices. Prices jumped between 7 and 10 cents, and we're like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, you know what we're seeing, obviously, with the gas thing is an international sort of gas war going on with Iran, Russia, the OPEC countries, and then U.S. production has been increased because of the fracking that's been going on. So you're seeing a glut of oil out there, and it's creating downward pressure on the cost of gas, which is great for the consumer. I know it's kind of wreaked havoc on Wall Street, but you know what? I think in general, it's about time the consumer got a break once in a while.
I've actually heard I've heard reports to the contrary saying that low gas prices in the long run will hurt, and I'm like, how?
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because the other thing is most small businesses or any business that relies on transportation a lot is going to have trucking industry, for example. They're going to have a great savings now for a while,
a couple of bucks.
And that helps. That helps companies. That helps keep overhead low for companies, which ultimately will be good. I think what they're talking about is energy. Energy issues generally. A lot of these companies that have gas as part of their energy portfolio of what they offer may be struggling to make ends meet, and right now wind, solar, those things haven't necessarily brought in the revenue that they've expected. It's been state and federal subsidies that have allowed wind, solar projects to kind of compete fairly well, but when those subsidies run out, maybe that's why long term the Wall Street's not looking at it favorably, lower gas costs. But I will say this, it's been a long time since the American household has gotten a break, and right now this lower gas cost is putting real dollars back in the household budget.
As I said earlier, I had mentioned about the gas tax, and you were a guy who got in on something where a lot of people shook their head and they're like, oh my God, they started as a David versus Goliath type of a scenario,
well, they
with you getting in on it.
Yeah.
And then when it came to possible the city of Boston doing the Olympics, you got involved in on that, and of course we saw what happened. Now, the big news in the Geoff Diehl camp is that you were named the co-chair of Donald Trump's Massachusetts campaign, right?
Yes. Well, that was interesting. And I'd gone to one of his sort of events that he had over the summer at Ernie Bach Jr.'s. Just wanted to get a feel for, who this guy was, what he was. We all know who Donald Trump is,
sure,
but do we all know the real Donald Trump, and do we know what he's like when he's out there campaigning to be the president of the United States as a Republican? So I went to that event, had a chance to kind of see what he was talking about. Made it to another event in New Hampshire a few weeks before the New Hampshire primary. Scott Brown former senator of Massachusetts, Scott Brown had just endorsed him.
Yep.
And I wanted to get a chance to talk to him, and I had a chance to. He actually mentioned that he was very happy about the success with the ballot question on the gas tax issue. And, sort of talks with his staff after that led to me becoming the co-chair here in Massachusetts for his campaign. And I was drawn to him for a couple key reasons. One is that successful businessman wants to take that success and try to apply it to running this country. All right, very similar to my reasons for running for state rep back in 2010. I was working for a small company. My wife owns her business. Thought it was time to maybe bring a business background to this legislative seat to try to represent, a better way to do things up on Beacon Hill. And also, I was on the finance committee. I wanted to make sure more money was coming back to our towns. That's really the lifeblood that we have. So Donald Trump wants to change the way business is done in D.C., and I've been trying to change the way business is done up on Beacon Hill. That was really the first thing. And secondly, Donald Trump is all about trying to grow the middle class back again. He's got tax policies that reduce the income tax. He's got corporate tax reduction so that we have companies able to grow more quickly, hire more quickly. He will accelerate job growth much faster than we've seen in the past 8 years, and at the same time create better trade deals internationally so that we don't lose jobs to Mexico, we don't lose jobs to China. You know, companies like Apple don't outsource that to China. So, you know, it's all about trying to make sure our middle class has the resources to educate their kids, ultimately retire in the way they need to, and live their lives each day without having to worry about the food on the table. That is his primary goal. I believe that's what he wants. I believe he wants to make America great again, and he's got a different way of doing business that hasn't worked down in D.C. for quite a long time.
You got busy immediately, and you were, I think you were essential when it came to Super Tuesday here in Massachusetts. What was that like for you?
That was wild. That was wild. I'd been to both his, we had 2 campaign offices in the state, was traveling back and forth between them.
I saw that.
Doing a lot of media interviews to talk about, why his campaign was probably going to do well on Super Tuesday and what I believed in him. And I'll tell you, this is the thing, the results speak for themselves. He got 49.6% of the vote, 31% over his next, the next person he was competing against. Right now that's the highest, widest margin of any of these states, and he's been bringing record turnout. In Massachusetts, 20,000 people unenrolled as Democrats to vote for Donald Trump in the Republican primary, and he got 45,000 more votes on this primary than Mitt Romney got 4 years ago from Massachusetts. So he is setting records when it comes to converting people to the Republican Party, or at least independent to vote for a Republican Party. He is also just having immense margins of victory in some of these states, and including Massachusetts, where who'd have thought, right?
Yep.
And I think he's going to continue to have that same success going forward. I think he should probably close out the primaries sooner than people think, because I think he's leading in Florida and even Ohio right now, and those are big states. So we'll see how that ends up, but that will allow him to move into the next phase, which is positioning himself as to why he's the better candidate against whoever the Democratic nominee is.
And I have to ask you that, there's a lot of talk, there has been a lot of talk, that there could be a little division when it comes to the convention. Do you feel that the Republicans can get their house in order, and if Donald Trump is the guy that has the required amount of delegates, that the party should rally around him, or do you feel that there'll be an end around because somebody's like, no, we don't want him?
Well, that's kind of the scary thing about what's going on nowadays. Is not Donald Trump, but the fact that the establishment in not just the Republican Party, but the Democrat Party are doing all they can to keep people who are sort of outsiders from getting in as president and really changing the way things are done. Bernie Sanders has some similar feelings about the middle class that Donald Trump has, feeling that the people that have been running this country for years have stopped listening to them. And so he and Donald Trump, I think, are both facing the same headwinds in their own party of trying to manipulate the system. Now, in his case, super delegates that were given to Hillary Clinton, that just sort of was an unfair advantage right out of the gate. And in the case of Donald Trump, it seems like every time he keeps winning, they want to move the goal line further and further away from him. But if they were smart, they'd say, this is basically the new Reagan revolution. This is Donald Trump is bringing to the Republican Party people that haven't wanted to vote or be in that party for decades. And Reagan was able to do it, and I think Massachusetts was in play back when he was running for president. I think Donald Trump is going to make Massachusetts in play when, and the Republican Party, the National Republican Party, should really get behind him very soon, because it's time to start working together.
You're the third person that I've heard who has used the likeness of Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump. Now, where Ronald Reagan was, okay, he was the actor, but he was the governor of California, so he at least had that under his belt. Do you see a lot of similarities between Ronald Reagan?
Well, Ronald Reagan was an actor. He was a union actor, but he also did, he would go around the country to GE locations and speak to the union members. Donald Trump is actually a member of a union, all right?
Right.
And he works with union guys from construction companies all over the place. So he certainly knows what's in their best interest, and that's why I think you're also seeing union folks work for him. And by the way, you always hear about Donald Trump being tagged as scary, right? Well, guess what? If you go back in your almanac and you look at the articles being written about Ronald Reagan, they used to call him scary. In fact, Gerald Ford, who was already done as president, volunteered to rerun again because he felt that Ronald Reagan was dangerous internationally and would destroy our relationship around the world. There's a desperation of the people
So the similarities.
because those who hold the power are so unwilling to turn it over to somebody who says we can't keep going this way, that they'll peg them as whatever they want, and dangerous, scary, whatever the word is. It's not Donald Trump who's scary. It is the people who think that the path we're on right now is not 19 trillion in debt. We can't. This is scary. Right. That's really scary.
Can't keep raising the debt ceiling every time you feel a need to scratch a financial itch. We just got a couple of minutes left. The conversation, it makes time fly by. Let's go local. Let's talk a district. I know there is a pending vote regarding the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. Give me your thoughts on that in regard to their vote on their budget for FY 2017.
Well, I'll tell you, Rep. Cutler, Senator Brady, and I have been called in to talk with the school committee several times over this budget because they wanted to kind of get a feel of where the state dollars were, and they also want to know, where are we? They wanted to inform people on the level of Chapter 70 money for education that comes in, and we're third from the top as far as regional schools, and regional schools get more than non-regionalized schools.
Right.
So we're third from the top in the state on money coming in. It's not a problem as far as our percentage-wise. It's the amount of money that goes into Chapter 70. Okay, and so what Rep. Cutler and I have done, and Senator Brady is, and we've gotten 74 colleagues to agree that we need to raise the per pupil spending not by $20, which is recommended in the House budget, but by $50. So that's out there.
Ooh.
Got a lot of supporters on that. The other thing too is the towns are going to be asked to vote either an operational level or a full service. The school's offering sort of their ideal budget.
Yep.
So that will be up for in a few weeks. The school committee will vote on that, and then it will go to the towns for their approval, and it may involve an override. We'll see what happens at that school committee certification meeting.
All right. Got a couple events coming up. You're going to be doing the traditional Abington St. Patrick's Day parade and also EB Kiwanis. Give us a little detail on those two.
So the St. Patty's parade, I'll be up at the front of the parade, waving, shaking hands to people and stuff like that. Probably find me at the cellar afterwards. If you want to join me in a beverage or so, I'll be at the cellar right at the finish line there. And what was the other one? Sorry, the
Kiwanis.
The Kiwanis Club.
Kiwanis, hang with the bunny.
That's great. The annual pancake breakfast where the Easter Bunny's there. Bring your kids, get their picture taken with the Easter Bunny. You don't have to make breakfast that morning, a Sunday morning. Bacon, eggs, pancakes, whatever you want. It's great.
Folks who want to get in touch with you, how can they do that? I know you're very accessible. How can they do it, though?
Best thing is go to my website, geoffdiehl.com, GeoffDiehl.com, just for sort of news and my contact info, although I'll give that to you as well. You can email me at geoff@geoffdiehl.com. That's GeoffDiehl. And then the other thing is my State House number is 617-722-2810. Call me at the office up there, too, and if you ever want, I can meet you here in the district, or you can come up to the State House. Happy to give you the nickel tour as well. All right?
And as well, you're also on Twitter all the time, too. I see you always hanging out.
Yes, Facebook and Twitter. Yep.
Yeah, so.
Yep. So Facebook is Geoff Diehl, I think, and then Twitter is Rep. Geoff Diehl.
Okay.
Yep.
Listen, I want to thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Always being available and coming in and joining us to talk about this stuff, and we'll look forward to talking to you probably in a couple of weeks.
Great. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Hey, that's all the time that we have here. Until next time, have yourself a great day.